Welcome back to another episode of the EVO 6 STI Killer presented by Koyorad. Today we are back at it, assembling the engine. We are getting closer to putting this engine fully back together. Today our goal is to assemble it for a full long block. That means putting the head on, cams, timing system. But first things first, we need to get the oil pan, the pickup, and the baffle in place here.
This is the OE baffle that we have in place here, and we are making up an upgrade to this Tomei baffle, which is quite different looking than the factory design. And Pete and I were having a closer look at it, as well as at Tomei's website, to try to figure out what this is all about. And what we gather is, when this bolt's in place here, the crank is spinning this way, and so as it rotates upward, these sort of plates that bend outward allow the oil to escape sort of in the natural flow of the rotation of the engine. And then again, on the other side, it does the same, because as it passes by, it's flinging the oil in the opposite direction, so these will shave it off in the other direction. So it's actually, we think, is quite a clever design to get as much oil back into the pan as you can. And they've also added this really cool oil cutter, which is designed to sit down in here, and it actually shaves oil off the crankshaft as it's spinning. So really the benefit of doing that is to reduce your windage losses. So the more oil you can get off of the crankshaft, the more you're effectively reducing its mass and freeing up horsepower. In fact, they have a dynograph, Tomei does, on their website showing that they pick up some top-end horsepower with this oil cutter. So basically free horsepower from what is a very clever and compact design. So I think this is quite a nice little upgrade. So let's get to bolting it in place.
There you have it. We've got the baffle in place, and thank you, Tomei, for supplying all the gaskets. We were able to put the oil pickup also bolted in place, and now we're getting ready to put the oil pan on. And I just realized I was about to put this gasket or the seal in place here from MAP, and I realized that there is a hairline crack right here, guys. I don't know how this happened. I don't know whether it was when we were taking it off or whatever, but or when I was cleaning it, who knows. This is broken. That means this oil pan is not gonna go on right now, because we're gonna have to order one of these. Speaking of oil pans, thank you so much to all of you that responded and did in fact confirm that this is a 8 to 9 oil pan, or it's a late 7 to 9. There's still a little bit of confusion. Anyways, this is the newer oil pan. This is the older oil pan, which is the 4 to 6. So, however, after looking at this baffle plate and everything, I think we're gonna reuse this one. I'm just gonna get in here and pop this dent out. It shouldn't be too difficult, because we've got good access from the backside. So we'll see. If I ruin this, then we'll go to this pan. But for now, we're gonna use this guy when the time comes.
It's a big moment here, everybody. The fact that I've pulled out our head gasket here from JE Pro Seal means it's time to install the cylinder head. So let's just have a quick chat about this gasket, because we use their same multi-layer steel gasket on the STI. We'd have 2 of them on that motor, because it's one of those weird flat 4s. But on this guy, we just get this nice main gasket, which, as you can see, has some really intricate embossing on it. And this is actually done in a 3-step process. So rather than just stamping it once really aggressively, which can leave like sharp edges and more like severe peaks and valleys, which can compromise the integrity of the gasket, they do it in 3 steps to give you this like very smooth, you know, like round embossments. And that apparently also helps it hold its shape. So once this is in here and we clamp the head down on it, it's much less likely to lose that embossment shape because of that process. And they also give it a heat treatment to, again, ensure that it maintains all of those embossing details and allows it to do its job fully. And as you can see, it's got these like nice fire rings around each cylinder, which really help seal those cylinders up to the high pressures that we're going to throw at it. There's a lot more technology in these. In fact, I wrote a story about these gaskets on our website. So if you want more info, by all means, jump over to speed.academy or give it a Google and you'll find tons of information. But you'll also notice that it has a special coating on it. There's actually a bunch of coatings on here. I believe there's 3 coatings, including this like black Viton rubbery type coating, and then a layer of silicone on top of that as well, which helps it reject any kind of like fluid. So let's put this on here the right way, and then we'll get to bolting the head down. This is it. Moment of truth. Get this on here. Oh, there she goes. Okay. She's in place on those two dowels, which is awfully handy. If you wanted to, I suppose you could have put the head studs in first, but this way you're not trying to like lower it down over those studs and maybe potentially mar the underside of the head. Something that I could easily do, most of you wouldn't do. So by the way, we should mention that in the first engine build video, we would have shown you the valve train components that are installed in the head now. These are of course from GSC Power Division. We're using their beehive springs and tie retainers, and we had all of that installed at our machinist's shop while he was servicing the whole engine for us. Putting my last ARP head bolt in here, and you can see there is a bottom and there is a top which accepts this Allen style tool. So we'll just drop it in here, and as per the instructions included with these, they're just meant to be put in finger tight. So you're not supposed to like torque these into the block or anything like that. You just bottom them out gently and leave them there. So I should also mention that ARP head studs are obviously a common upgrade for anyone who's turning up the boost on their engine. So we're doing it because we're going to throw a bunch more boost at this engine than the stock heads are really designed, or the stock head bolts are really designed for. And these ARP ones are obviously legendary for how strong they are. They're made of like a high-grade chromoly steel, extremely strong. They're rated like 200,000 psi. Apparently they're like 10 times more fatigue resistant than most other head bolts or head studs on the market. So they are truly the good stuff. And they're not cheap, but they're also not like, they're not so expensive that they would scare you off. And by the way, we'll mention too that we ordered these from Turn 14 Distribution, and they showed up, man, I think it was like 2 days. It was incredible how fast they turned up. So once again, Turn 14 has our back whenever we need the good stuff fast.
I am almost done the first round of torquing these head studs to spec, and ARP recommends we torque to a final 80 foot-pounds, but you do it in 3 steps. So I'm going to 35, and then we'll go to 55, and then we'll go to 80. And some of you may be wondering why we put the head on and then we put the studs in. And that's because we're just following along with HP Academy's video tutorial, right? So I think we're at, what was it, 9 of 10 here, long block assembly.
Yep.
And if you guys are wondering, like, they do cover off how to assemble the head. Obviously, we skipped that whole portion because, like Dave mentioned, we took it to the machinist. So there's a ton of good info there. Obviously, check the video description for your discount code, 75 bucks and all that jazz. It's a great course to sign up. I highly recommend it. So now I am on to 55, and then we'll go to 80, and we should be good to go. Oh, the other thing you guys may be wondering is we did use the ARP Ultra Torque Lube literally on everything. The threads, the washers, and the nuts. And you really want to do that because you want to get consistent torque ratings, and the only way to do that is to use that, that assembly lube. So one thing I find puzzling here is you do get a little bit of this weird slip motion where it almost feels like it the stud is slipping, like everything is slipping, and then it catches and torques again. So maybe post in the comments. I've had this happen before. I remember it is an okay thing. So if you run into that same problem where you feel like, oh my God, did I just like strip it? Or why was there this sudden release? I think it's either the stud is turning or the lube is doing its part. After my DSM days, the one thing I knew I wanted to upgrade was the factory lifters. These are a hydraulic unit, and from my days back, as I said, in the DSM days, I remember they used to tick and make noise and cause phantom knock sometimes. And thankfully, GSC Power has come up with a solution for that, and that is zero tick lifters. As the name implies, they provide zero tick, and they do that by having a stiffer spring inside of these. So at lower oil pressures, these aren't going to collapse like the factory ones do. And there is a bleeding procedure that you have to do. And as you can see, I've got a few soaking in oil. And what you want to do is after they're soaked in oil, you want to be very gentle. I've got some wire rod, some welding rod right here. And what I'm going to do is stick it right in the middle and push down on the ball just ever so slightly. All you're really looking to do is for it to release the lifter, and then I don't know if you guys can see that, but now I can move it up and down, and then you just kind of like slowly bleed the air out of it. And you'll know they're bled when you push down on them as such, and they're not moving. So this one's bled. We're going to drop these in place, and then we are going to put the rocker in place here. We're going to do that 15 more times, and we will be ready for those cams.
It is time to drop in our camshafts, and for that we have gone with GSE S1 cams. These are the same profile cam that we used in the STI build. You might be sensing a theme here, everyone, and for good reason. These cams are actually very friendly. You could use them on the stock valve train, although as I mentioned earlier, we did upgrade the valve springs and retainers, as well as the valves. We use GSE valves in here as well, standard spec sizing. And the beauty of these S1 cams is that unlike most camshaft upgrades where you're giving up some bottom end to gain top end, these actually give up no bottom end power at all. And in testing, they see between, say, 35 and 50 wheel horsepower gains with these dropped in, just depending on what size turbo you've combined them with. So all gains with these bad boys. Like that, we've got camshafts in this motor, and it was a pretty straightforward procedure. No really tricky parts to it. There is a dowel on the end of each of the cams that you're instructed to have in the like in that 12 o'clock position on both of those once you put the engine to top dead center on cylinder number 1, which we did. So everything's lining up nicely there, and you can see I used this like thick engine assembly lube. And we did that because GSE specifies in their instructions that you should use a Redline or equivalent type lube, which this is the Redline lube. So we are moving on next to installing the cam position sensor here. So there's this housing that goes on here. And interestingly, Pete ordered a different bolt for this housing. The bolt goes in the middle here, and you can see our original bolt, this gold one in my right hand, it's just a little bit longer than the one that Pete ordered. So Pete ordered the newer like EVO 7 and 9 version, and our obviously is an EVO 6. And our thinking is, we can't remember exactly why he ordered it, but we're thinking that maybe this longer bolt bottoms out inside the cam and you can't get full engagement.
I checked and it doesn't feel like that. I don't know, man. Yeah. I think it might have to do with something. The EVO 5-6 cams apparently have a smaller bolt, like an M8, and then maybe the actual diameter, and maybe that's an M10. But then we've got that. I mean, our oil pan was also a newer one, so I'm starting to think maybe we have a very late model EVO 6 engine, and they were like transferring stuff over now from the new EVO 7 that they were building. Who knows? Maybe you guys can post in the comments and let us know, right?
Yeah, let us know if you know what this is about. But I think we'll be fine to use either bolt. And GSE doesn't mention needing to switch to a slightly shorter bolt to make these cams work in a 456 motor. So who knows, man? It's a mystery. Anyway, the good news is we've got multiple bolts that'll do the job. With that mystery bolt torqued down to 21 Newton meters, it's time to put the cover on here. And for that, we are using a brand new metal gasket. I'm surprised it uses such a fancy gasket for this location, but I guess it needs it, and we are using all new gaskets throughout. As we showed you in the previous episode, we got a complete gasket kit from MA Performance. Where are they, Pete? They're down in like Minnesota, I think.
I think so.
I'm pretty sure they're in the Minnesota area, and
I think so.
man, they've been exceptional to deal with. We had a part that we needed like overnighted to us, and we emailed them, and like within half an hour,
We
they
may
got
be
back to us, and
ordering
boom.
that broken.
Yeah, it's true. They
cranks,
stock that rear
housing
seal
or
housing.
whatever,
They do
yeah.
stock that, and it's only like $22 on their website or something. So
I think
if
I'm
we
putting
can't
that.
find one locally, we'll
Yep.
go to MA for that. So if you guys need EVO parts, check them out. So I just need to figure out how to orient this on here, Pete. I guess there's really no wrong way to do it.
I don't think
know.
so. Just bolt her up
Looks
and.
like it's a perfect triangle. So let's bolt those on to 10 Newton meters, everybody.
We are moving on to the timing belt side of things, and first up we're going to replace our old balance belt, and as you can see it is cracked. This is exactly why you want to replace these, because these are a common failure. And what I am going with for both the balance shaft belt and the timing belt is Greddy's strengthened timing belts. These are obviously more heat resistant, they're less prone to cracking. And DP, they smell good.
They smell good?
I'm not joking. They smell good.
Come on.
They smell good.
What do they smell like? Well, they do smell good.
See?
Yeah.
They smell good. That's also a bonus. Buy a timing belt.
Yeah.
I don't know what it smells like. It's hard. Sorry, we can't. I can't describe this,
But
but
it's kind of a laundry fresh vibe.
yeah,
going on there,
yeah. So, anyways, both belts are going on. We also have all brand new components for the pulleys, and these are, I want to say aftermarket, but they're not. They're from the same companies like ASIN, NTN, that make the OEM pulleys for Mitsubishi. They're just not from Mitsubishi. So I've got all those, and of course a genuine tensioner. These are prone to failure, so you want to replace these. And of course also a water pump. So without further ado, it is time to get to this. There we have it. One of the most complex timing systems I've dealt with in a very long time. Compared to the 2J, this is convoluted. And it's mainly just because, as you saw, we had to secure the cam gears onto the belt because they're constantly slipping. So it's not like they're free in that perfect TDC position. They're under tension on the cams. So there was a bit of like trickery that we had to do with the zip ties and whatnot. Once you got that on there, all the way down here, there was also quite a bit of time and effort to get everything to line up correctly. And there is a proper tool to tension this. I don't have it. I forgot to order it. Foolish me. I forgot to this was one of the things I didn't really think about in terms of timing belt. I was like, oh, I guess it just all goes together. You don't need any special tools. This is a good tool to have. As you saw, I just used 2 drill bits, stuck them in there, and used a screwdriver to pull it out and tension this properly. You may have also seen with the front balance shaft on the main timing side here, there's a hole in the back side, and you must have that in the correct position. If that screwdriver goes in, you've got it in the proper position. If it doesn't go in, you've got it in the wrong position. Another weird thing. Earlier I had shown you this as the timing belt tensioner. this was not the timing belt tensioner. We had ordered the right part. As you can see, this is from Worldpack. This was the right part, but it was the wrong actual item inside the box. So we had to take a bit of a breather there and wait for the new one to show up, but it's in. And I think at this point, wow, this is together. It's looking good. Some of you may have noticed we've got the valve cover on. Check this out. JP over at Stripping Tech did a fantastic job on this. I decided to go wrinkle black. The one question I do have is I think I'm gonna grind this off right now. The dual overhead cam 16 valve. I just think it's a little bit dark. It'll look more OEM. Here we are. I think it looks better. Got more of an OEM feel. So let's just jump back to the timing side here. I forgot, I've got to crank this guy around to make sure that everything is in time. It's something you certainly want to do. And let's check. We've got both timing marks here that are lined up. This timing mark is lined up on the balance shaft. That one's lined up, and this guy's lined up. So I'd say we did a good job. It is time to move on here. I was just about to put the timing covers on here, and I realized, well, we're missing these small little brackets on the side. These are, I guess, these little metal covers on the back side of the timing belt system, on this side and this side. And then I grabbed this one. I was like, oh, I wonder where this goes. I don't know. I don't see. Oh, wait. This goes behind this bracket here, this engine mount bracket here. So you know what this means? This whole entire timing belt system has to come off. Oh, no. Why? Man, what a mistake. Well, this time around, though, it's going to be easy as this. Whew, there we go. Installed. Easy breezy. You know what? There is a silver lining in all of this, because when we redid the timing system here, we realized that we had over-tensioned this pulley, and our tensioner was actually bottomed out, so it wasn't doing its job. Now that that is in place, it is finally time for me to bolt the plastic trim onto here. I think it's official. We got ourselves an assembled long block, minus that oil pan. But man, oh man, it is satisfying seeing that this thing is almost together. So I think this is officially a wrap on this episode. Next one, we're gonna continue with a lot of cool, sexy stuff. We've got a tubular manifold from Full Race, a G25 Turbo, and clutch. Man, we might even get to putting the transmission on, so thank you very much for watching. If you like this episode, think about giving me a thumbs up, and think about subscribing, because we've got a couple really good videos coming down the pipeline on this EVO still.
Get this on here.
Oh, there she goes.